Hello everybody, and welcome to another Stellaris video. Today I wanted to show you guys yet another extremely broken build in Stellaris. Take a look at my factions. They are producing an absolutely enormous amount of technology. I believe just these two factions are producing over 2,000 tech. And how is this possible? Especially since the population of my empire is really low. I only have 9.4 thousand civil pops, yet we're producing this much from factions. How is this possible? Well, this build takes advantage of something very cool, which is pop political power. This is not something which a lot of people know how it works. And essentially what pop political power does is it scales the importance of how happy they are, and their political power affects their faction output. And when you have the Chosen of the Cradle, you get plus 500% pop political power, which is, as you can imagine, quite a bit. In addition to that, taking the Cradle of the Souls will give you access to Thoroughband, or Thorough Bond, which gives another 100% faction resource output. And when you have the Democratic Government, you get another bonus of 40% faction resource output, in combination with Egalitarian and a whole bunch of other modifiers like the crowdsourcing leader, I forget what they're called, the innovation coordinator. Yeah, this really stacks up to an absolutely insane amount of faction resource output. I believe there's a few more modifiers. I don't even remember like where they come from. Oh yeah, here's another one, faction resource output per telepaths plus 5%. So as you get more telepaths, I currently, by the way, only have, I believe, 500 telepaths on my capital. Yeah, I only have 500 telepaths. You could, once you get this up to like 1,200 by eventually finding all four sanctum buildings, you could probably get this up to like an even more ridiculous amount. And then you're really just limited by the pop growth speed of psionics, which is very average. But you can obviously invade any Admiral AI or Grand Admiral AI you want, and it'll be no problem with the amount of ships you have combined, and military. You can tributize them, you can colonize them, you can claim them, you can do whatever you want, right? So how do you play this build, and how does it work? So let me exit to the main menu here and start a new game. When I was playing around with this build, I originally started as oligarchic, but then I realized during the playthrough that democratic is simply better, as it gives faction resource output per empire skill level, which is of course very valuable. And in addition, we take egalitarian, spiritualist, and xenophile as our 3 starting ethics, as this gives factions that all produce society tech, which is the most important tech for this build. In addition, we start with anglers and crowdsourcing. This might feel a little bit weird to some people, as why would you take anglers instead of the Chosen? In case you guys are unaware, the Chosen allows you to select which Shroud Covenant you end up with at the very beginning of the game. So why would we go without it? And the reason is we need a way to have a good basic economy. And I find that if you play bioships without anglers, it is really bad with how low your pop count is, and you have to play bioships because you have basically no engineering tech, and then your ships would be terrible with no engineering tech. So I guess you could run something like disruptor corvettes, or it's just so copium though, right? Like, and so instead, yeah, we're going to run bioships. Running bioships also does hurt our society tech tree in the sense it gets really jammed, and there's a lot of society techs we're going to want. However, that's fine. I would also recommend picking between Deneb and Sol. Sol has the advantage where if you want to build an arc furnace at some point, it's very good. So we'll probably start Sol for the sake of the video, and show that you do get a smaller homeworld. Whenever you're playing with this build, to please the Cradle of the Souls, you're going to need many sources of empires that you can do deals with, like any deals, commercial packs, research packs, like non-aggression, all those things. So you want to max out the number of AI empires. We can also just play on Iron Man, so you guys know I'm not messing with anything. So I like to max out the number of AIs. We're also playing on default multiplayer settings, which is what you see here. The most important thing is difficulty adjusted tech is off, and tech and tradition are 0.75 instead of 1, which is honestly not a huge difference from a regular game. With that in mind, let's go ahead and get started and see what we can do against all these AI. So, upon starting the game, this build plays quite a bit like some other builds, except one important difference is while we start with a size 12 and a size 23. So we'll colonize the size 12 first, I think, as it'll be our basic resource world, and then the size 23 can be our food world. And yeah, okay, what was I saying? I interrupted my own train of thought. It plays very similar to other builds, except you don't want to take any traditions, as your very first tradition is going to be psionic, and your very first tech is going to be the psionic tech. But as you can see, it takes 206 months at the current speed, which is not something we want to deal with. So how do we speed this up? The first thing is go into your government and immediately start the mind over matter agenda. This will shave 25% off this time. The next thing you immediately want to do is you just want to sell off basically all your resources that aren't energy credits or minerals, and just buy minerals until you have 1,000. Seems a little bit excessive, but I believe this is the best thing to do. And then you immediately want to build a society district to start maximizing society research. You can also delete the holo theater on your capital. You won't need that. And you can reduce the amount of anglers and technicians you have after some time as well. You can do it all at once, and it's a little bit risky. You could get some crime events, or you could just do it a little bit at a time and avoid any of those crime events. But you might actually want to even leave the technicians on there until you can buy the Shroud leader. I forgot to mention our origin is Teachers of the Shroud, and Teachers of the Shroud will help us psionic rush as fast as possible. And we're just going to go ahead and buy this as soon as we can as well, and that will give us a very strong early game start, considering the rest of the build is really not that geared towards early game. We're just going to be trying to make as much society tech as possible to try to get the psionic situation started as soon as we can. That's kind of the main goal here. This will help us a little bit as we get a nice little leader here. They start with unfortunately terrible traits. I guess adventurous spirit? Sure, it's definitely not a good trait. We can also take a look at our factions now and see if there's anything we can do to improve our faction approval. The egalitarian faction is decent for producing the best amount of society tech. The spiritualist faction is the best because it's the easiest to please, and the xenophile faction is kind of there as well, and it'll also help us. And one interesting thing we want to do is, instead of going isolationist, which I normally do, we're going to go cooperative, because we want to be cooperative with any empires we find nearby, and that is going to be the next major task we have. It's going to be finding nearby empires. And we do spawn in a little enclave, which would be cool if I was trying to play defensively, but I'm trying to find other empires, so it's a little inconvenient, but we can sneak out and start to look for other empires. And why we want to look for other empires is the earlier we can establish deals with other empires, the faster we can satisfy the chosen, or the cradle part of the Shroud, which we don't even have access to right now. And that is who we want to ultimately form a covenant with. So getting access to those other empires earlier is definitely going to be something pretty important. Another thing you might have noticed is that we're producing a really excess amount of consumer goods, so you can go ahead and turn your species to Utopian Abundance, which will give you extra bit of tech and unity for your trouble. As you can see, those things aren't great at the start of this build. Although it should improve quite a bit. Yeah, 143 tech, 73 society tech, and we're going to get more and more society tech as we build more city districts, which we definitely want to do. We're also going to want to max out our mineral buy to 40, and then we want to basically delete all the technicians off our capital, as we're going to be building more, we're going to be getting more energy credits than we can realistically use. And at this point, it's just about exploring into the galaxy and getting that psionic tech done. So we'll be back when the psionic tech is done. I just want to quickly mention, if you're unfamiliar with playing Teachers, there's a cool trick you can do to explore the galaxy safely and never lose your ships to random alien vessels or anything like that, is you can toggle on crystalline sensors for a single turn to scout what's ahead of you. And, well, this normally would work, except when you're looking into a nebula, it doesn't. But other than that, you can use it to safely move your ships forward. It only uses one rare crystal per activation as well, so you can do this like 20 something times, which should explore a massive portion of the galaxy. If you do happen to find a nebula, then you'll just have to fly in blind and send us one of your admirals there or something like that so that they can actually explore. Alright guys, our first tech for psionics has already finished now, so what you want to do when this happens is, well, you can open the psionics tree now, and I believe you should immediately have enough unity, if you remember not to take any traditions, to build the Psycore building, and the Psycore building is extremely powerful, giving you a lot of unity and your first telepath jobs, which will definitely be taking advantage of. The next thing you want to do is you want to activate the material meditation thing in this situation, and what this will do is it'll allow you to find a 1 Zero deposit over your capital, which will be very useful for you, as there's a lot of things that cost Zero that can help you out when you're going for psionic situations these days. And also, as you can see, you can explore really, really fast when you have crystalline sensors, so yeah, don't be afraid to just go far out into the galaxy and find as many first contacts with empires as you can and start researching them immediately. The other thing you might have noticed that I'm doing is I'm not researching anything in psionics, as I simply want to leave this blank to build up psionic research, or not psionic, society research to use for Zero deposits as soon as the Zero deposit is found over our capital. That will give us a 100% chance to get the Zero technology, which we want to save our society tech for. And yes, tech does save up when you're not using it, and it speeds up your later techs by not using any currently. So yeah. Alright, just a few months later that Zero deposit has been found. That means we can go into technology here, and well, maybe we should be able to go into technology. There we go. Just need to update. Now we can do the Zero distillation tech, which will only take 31 months because we built up a considerable amount of society tech, which is really nice, and our first Psycore hasn't even come online yet, which is very, very cool. The other thing we want to start to do is we want to consider what we want to do with our planets. By the way, I'd never showed my species portraits. Here they are. Pretty basic: aquatic, rapid breeders. Conformist is a little off-kilter, and then unruly and psychological infertility just help make the points work. This will, of course, be pretty bad when I start going to war with empires and such, but when you're playing against AI, you can keep the wars real brief. Other than that, if you're playing in multiplayer, you can turn this into non-adaptive or something like that. As with aquatic and non-adaptive, you really don't get really bad penalties from that. So, what you want to do here with the psionic events, this is where this build gets really hard, because we want to move our position in the Shroud over to the right here. We want to get into the cradle. But how do we do that? And the opposite side on the left is I believe this is it's the Eater of Worlds, right? And the Eater of Worlds are kind of evilish and nasty, and the cradle is supposed to be nice and diplomatic. So we want to pick the options that sound nicer and more diplomatic, and in general, I find that this usually moves us in the right direction. Later on, I really hope that on the wiki or somewhere, all these events get documented, so you'll always know which way you need to go or what options you need to pick to move your position in the Shroud over to where you need to be. However, for now, you just have to go off this very vague idea that you want to pick the nicer sounding things and less evil, and the more diplomatic sounding things and not let more brutal or brutish kind of things. Like, it's very abstract, I guess. But yeah, hopefully someday in the future I can just like leave a link to the wiki and you guys will know which options to click. But for now, you're just gonna have to reason it through, and if you do, you'll probably end up in the right quadrant for your empire anyway. However, it can be a little bit tricky, and I've definitely messed it up at least once in testing, so don't feel bad if you do. Other than that, you're just free to continue, and I would wait for all your unity to spend it to finish off the Psionic Christian tree before starting anything new. Other than that, just go ahead and keep going. Another thing I thought I should mention, in case you haven't played Psionics since the new update, is you can actually build Psycore right away now on any planet. You don't need colonial centralization technology, which means every time you get a new planet, the first building should be Psycore almost no matter what. It is simply unmatched in how useful it is. So yeah, go ahead and do that. And then after that, you want to decide what to do with the planets, which is what I mentioned I was going to do earlier, but I forgot since I'm short-sighted, or short-term memory. And essentially what we want to do is the largest planet you have is going to be dedicated for food. This build needs a ridiculous amount of food. Bioships have a really, really high upkeep relative to Navy power. So yeah, you're going to have to be careful about that and make sure you have more than enough food and alloys to upkeep them, which means you need a massive food planet. Even though we're going to have countless positive modifiers to how efficient our food production is, you are still going to probably need more food. So do keep that in mind. Another thing you might want to do on your dedicated food planet is you will want to build at least some minerals at the beginning, because this build really lacks minerals before you can find catalytic reprocessing. And here's another psionic event. Bad dreams can't hurt us. See, this sounds like it is going towards the Eater of Worlds, right? And we don't want to do that. We want to go the opposite way. So, sleep disturbance research, calm with prescriptions. It's probably one of these. But prescription psychochemicals doesn't sound like the most nice thing, so maybe allocate research to remedy this crisis. I genuinely don't know which is the correct option here. Let's just click one and hope we got it right. Yes, we did. We got it right. We move closer to the cradle. Very, very nice. So we just have to not mess up some of the next conditions, and we should be looking good. All right, back to the planets. So yeah, the other thing you're going to want is you're going to want a dedicated planet just for engineering tech and energy. If you're lucky enough to have more than one habitable type planet, which I do here, I'm going to use one planet just for engineering, which is this tiny size 12, as we don't need the craziest amount of engineering research, right? And then we're going to use the other planet as an energy planet. Yes, there's only, oh no, not this planet as an energy planet. And that's basically all the resources we need. We need a token amount of minerals. More than enough minerals can be gotten from an arc furnace, which is why we took the Sol system. So later on we can rely on that. But for now, food, energy, engineering tech, and that is essentially all the resources you need to make, because your capital will later on be consumer goods and alloys. You only need one mixed industry, and then all alloys for everything else. And the reason you can get away with so little consumer goods is, of course, you're not upkeeping any researchers, because you're getting most of your research from factions, which is just super, super powerful and awesome to see. So anyhow, we're going to go ahead and take this last planet colonization here. And at this point, we should be doing very, very well. Basically, the most difficult part of this build, I would say, is getting the right direction in the Shroud. And once that is established, not that much can go wrong. So yeah, we're definitely on the right track here. We can also now just take whatever techs, and essentially what we're looking for now is we're looking for colonial centralization and then the third civic, which can be very difficult to roll since we are bioships, which means our society tech is crowded. But we have very good society tech, so it still should be easily possible before like year 25 to hit the third civic. Also, you may be wondering, why were we rushing Zrow technology? This is why. Once you have Zrow technology, you can, of course, build the Zrow deposit, and then you can distribute Zrow to speed up the situation to 12.5 from like 7.5 per month progress. So that is quite a big jump and will help us a lot. And yeah, I accidentally went negative because I activated that policy before I finished building the deposit, but we're good now. That'll all sort itself out. All right, and just like that, like literally 1 month later, we reached halfway in the situation. And at that point, you can finish the Psionic tradition tree and take our first tradition pick, which is going to be Tech Ascendancy. And there's something very important we need to do with Tech Ascendancy is we need to open New Worlds research. This will help us find the technology for colonial centralization. And then after that, we want to change it from New Worlds to Statecraft to try to find the +1 civic slot. Depending on how lucky we are, we'll be able to find it before 10 years from now, and if we're unlucky, it'll be after 10 years from now. Hopefully we get lucky, though, so crossing my fingers. And just like that, we're ready to explore the Shroud. Yes, we already have the Shroud panel open, but we can't delve yet. It does look like we somehow lost a bit of attunement towards the I keep calling it the chosen, the cradle. They both start with C, so my brain just smoothly autocorrects it to the same thing. Anyhow, yeah, I think as long as we're the closest to this quadrant, we're okay. But if we get any farther in any other direction, we could have some problems. So hopefully I don't mess the situations up, as that would be really sad, because I'd probably need to redo the video because it is not easy to recover from going the wrong direction in the Covenant there. Otherwise, you need a lot of Zero, you'll need a lot of stuff. It is recoverable, so in case things go wrong, I will show how to recover. And in case they don't, well, in the future, I'm sure there'll be more information about which buttons you need to click. So it should also be easier to deal with the situations by that time once the wiki is more updated. On the other hand, I just want to update you guys also on what we're doing with the planets. So, of course, the planet which I said is going to a tech world. We're just building it up as a tech world. Who could have guessed? Yeah, just remember to build city districts when you can. Our food world, I like to start with 2 mineral districts, and then we'll start building food, and we'll probably never go back to these mineral districts once we reform into catalytic. But for now, we need extra minerals, as we just need some to build up our empire, right? And then this world will, of course, be dedicated to energy, which we will need to maintain our larger fleets later on. And here's another event. The strong shall survive. That doesn't seem very nice. Invest in an implant. Let meditation calm our minds. It's between these two, but I don't really know which one sounds more neutral or more diplomatic, right? Honestly, meditation sounds more diplomatic. I don't know. Okay. We went in the right direction there. So yeah, it's definitely quite vague, but yeah, I hope you guys can figure it out. I'm definitely not having the easiest time of it, as we're just barely moving the right way. But yeah, we also don't really want to get blocked in by these guys, but we need to improve relations with these guys anyway at some point, as they are really close to us and they're fanatic spiritualists, so we shouldn't have the hardest time, like befriending them. And yeah, your diplomatic skills get really good when you're with the Cradle as well. Like, you get a lot of diplomacy bonuses and trust growth and that kind of thing. So yeah, you don't have a very hard time, if I'm being completely honest. Like making friends with AI empires if you take the Cradle. So that's something important to note. All right, it's time to reach into the Shroud. Oh, and our pops are going to produce exotic gases. That is, of course, very nice. And this basically will allow us to commune with the Cradle. I keep trying to say chosen there. I don't know why, and I had to stop myself. Anyhow, this should be a pretty fast research, as our society tech is really good. This is also why we need so many sources of society tech, although we somehow have more physics tech, is so that we can get through these in a timely manner. In the meantime, we'll continue to develop our planets, and just generally, we should be doing pretty good now. Yeah, we just have to wait for some of these events to go through, and then we can establish communications with the Cradle and start increasing our attunement with them until we get to the critical breakpoints. And I'll show you guys how to do that once we get there. Alright, we got 2 very important events at exactly the same time. The first one is the Cradle of Soul emerges. Make sure you grow closer with the Cradle of Souls. And then the next thing we get is we get the option for expanding our council finished, which is the second agenda we ended up doing. And we want to take Shroud Walker Teacher. This might seem a little odd, as Minister of the Seas is an amazing position, Innovation Coordinator is an amazing position, but we mostly need this to decrease the delve cooldown in case we mess anything up. Maybe it's actually better to go with one of the other ones with more optimization to be done in the future, but I haven't had enough time to test every iteration of everything, right? So this is a very safe choice, I would say. And now we have, access to the Cradle. What we can go ahead is we need to try to find ways to increase our attunement. The first one is form a defensive pact. This one is not the easiest to do, but it's probably not the worst. Another thing we can do immediately is we need to find the Shroud Enclave, right? If you can't find it, go into contacts, and at this point in the game, you probably only have a few contacts. One of them will be the Shroud, and you want to seek mastery of the Shroud, and you want to seek further attunement with the Cradle of Souls, and this will cost you 100 Zero. Now, Affording this 100 will be pretty expensive. I would sell off something like alloys. I have some gases, so I'll sell those off too. And then I'll just use them to buy a big bulk lump of this row. I still can't afford it, and we're just going to sell stuff until we can, as it is very important to get this as soon as we can. So we'll go ahead and buy that extra attunement for 125. And the next thing we need to do here is we need to just follow these options that it gives us to try to max this out. Now, if something is too hard, go ahead and re-roll it. But if it's doable, you can always go ahead and try. Also, assigning envoys will speed it up, but never quite as much as just accomplishing the tasks there. And taking a look at these two empires near us, none of them really want a defensive pact with us. Like minus 90 is quite a bit off. Even the non-aggression is quite a bit off. And even though I do have an embassy, that won't improve our relations very quickly on its own, so we'll probably end up having to re-roll this and looking for a different option that might be a little bit easier. But none of the options are particularly easy, if I'm going to be completely honest. One of the things you can do is actually build defense platforms, I believe, and that only helps a little bit, so we might build a couple. And we have some alloys to spare, right? So why not build a couple defense platforms? But yeah, in general, I think I'm going to need to reroll that, as defensive pact is one of the harder pacts to form. We'll probably be able to get an easier pact like migration or research or something like that, and we can probably brute force that with an envoy and some resources. So we'll go ahead and wait for 100 days. In the meantime, I should probably, I'm more likely to be friends with these guys. They're Xenophile and Fennec Spiritualist. I'm Xenophile and Regular Spiritualist, right? The only difference is I am also egalitarian, so very, very small difference in ethics between me and this empire here. This is why it's also great to make contact with as many empires as possible if you can, right? Is you get more options. And yeah, we could probably just improve relations with an envoy here, and then offer them a trade deal. We need to find out what resource they want. They're catalytic, so they probably have enough alloys. Maybe they lack consumer goods. They definitely don't lack consumer goods. Maybe they lack exotic gases. They don't really lack exotic gases. Maybe they lack, I really don't want to trade the minerals, food. I guess that's not the worst trade deal in the world. I guess we can add those gases back in there. We can add not monthly consumer goods. Let's add just a bulk of consumer goods, because I have quite a few of those. Yeah, this is expensive, but this will help us build trust, and it'll increase the AI attitude at first, which will then help us build trust and that kind of thing. And yeah, we just really need some of these treaties, and you need 20 trust, and we got an independence guarantee. That doesn't count as a defensive pact, but that's moving somewhere, right? Commercial pact, research agreement, and migration treaty are now all available as well, so we can go ahead and re-roll this out and see what we get. We got one of the worst ones. Form passing in something in the galactic community takes ages. I don't even know why it's there, so we're gonna have to wait another year. Oh, right. We can now re-roll this out. Did I click re-roll? Nope. Calling of Alliance. Well, we got defensive pact again, so we're just gonna have to make it happen, eh? Defensive pact. Negative 63 acceptance is way too far. We are getting really unlucky with this. Also, by the way, don't accept any of these green packs when you're not rerolling it in this little reroll menu. Instead, just wait until it's back available. Let's enlist this guy. Wait until you can reroll it, and then see if you get something that you can actually do, and then do that action. If you already make the pact, you have to break the pact and then make it again, which can get kind of messy. And yeah, we're just getting really unlucky, I would say. I think, yeah, defensive pact is the worst one. Anything else would be better. But we're just going to have to keep waiting, and we're not going to reach into the Shroud again until we're at 800, I believe. And at 800 attunement, we should be able to form a covenant, I believe. If you think it's going to take so long that your delve cooldown will be back up again, so that's 5 years? Is that delve cooldown? No, it's a little less than 5 years. It's 4 years, 3 years, something like that. Then you can delve, and it gives you some unity and that kind of thing, but it's not a huge bonus, so I would just wait until you're at the 800 attunement. Alright, please don't roll into the same thing again. Please don't roll into Calling of Trade. That's what we're talking about. We should definitely be able to form a commercial pact. There we go. And this is why I said don't form any of the pacts first. Wait until you have it as an option. then form the pact, and we should be good. Why is this not going through, by the way? They're considering another option from us currently. Okay, there we go. Perfect. That is one thing done. Calling of trade. Let's see what we get next. Calling of displacement, migration treaty. We should be able to get a migration treaty. Nice. See, this is what normally happens. This is what happened in my testing round. It was just like this all the way through. I got like one bad one. Calling of secrets. That's a research agreement. Very nice. Form research agreement. Let's go ahead and do that. And that's another 100 attunement. And there we go. Calling of trade again. Okay, can I break the commercial pact and just make it again? So it costs like, if that works, I'm gonna laugh. I think it worked. Establish a trade deal. Did that work? Does establish a trade deal mean establish a commercial pact, or does it mean establish a... I think it means establish a commercial pact, right? Let's see if I can get one with these other guys. Nah, these guys don't really like us anymore. I haven't been focusing on them even a little bit. So, how can we get just a tiny bit? See, we're literally like 80 short. I guess we can just put envoys on here. We have a couple envoys extra now. And that will get us there eventually. Oh, right, we can... Defending, 3.3. Build a new defense platform. Let's build some defense platforms. Hopefully that can get us there. Do I have another base to build a defense platform on? Yeah, if we spread them out, it'll be a little bit faster, right? So let's build some defense platforms. Oops, not there. Build another defense platform over here. And maybe that will get us just over the edge there, because we just need that 800, right? And also, by the way, we can now build a Sanctum of the Cradle. We just don't have Colonial Centralization tech yet, which is why I hate playing with bioships, as they just crowd the society tech tree to a crazy extent. But anyhow, it's fine. We're also just going to... Wait, if open supremacy, is that going to move me the other way? I'm a bit scared. We're already losing attunement. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Calling of trade. Okay, let's break the commercial pact first. And then let's form commercial pact. Is there a check that makes us so you can't do this? I think it's not working. Yeah, I don't think it works, unfortunately. I'd be so annoyed, by the way, if somebody just kept like breaking and then accepting and then asking for the same pact over and over again. Thankfully, the AI doesn't think like that, so yeah, it looks like we'll have to re-roll this. It's not really working. Not a huge deal. What else can we do? Pleasing, voting, helping, earn a favor. I don't want to take the diplomacy tree. Voting in the Galcom. There is no Galcom. Form a federation. Oh, that could work. I don't have federation tech. Never mind. Well, I'll just wait until this gets to 800, guys. Or I get like the new refresh, and we'll see how it works, you know. And we're finally there after a few months. We're at 801 attunement. I believe now we can delve, and we should have delved earlier, as we might have to delve one more time, which means we'll have to wait the cooldown again before we get the cradle. Unlucky. I think I definitely messed up. I think I was supposed to delve one more time. So yeah, I guess don't wait for 800 attunement. Delve before 800 attunement as soon as you can, then delve again after 800 attunement, and that is probably the correct build path. So yeah, I'll definitely leave a document again detailing how to do this, and obviously if you're watching this, you'll know to delve as soon as it's available the first time, and then you won't be getting something like a second entity. Maybe it's just luck, or maybe it was like 900 attunement. I don't know. Let me know in the comments if you know what went wrong there, but I'm pretty sure the next delve should be fine. So that's also why, by the way, I'm a big fan of the Shroud Walker teacher, as their next delve cooldown will be in not too long at all. In the meantime, we can just focus on trying to roll the right psionic tech. So probably don't pick the expensive ones like I just did. If you're not thinking, and just pick the cheap ones so you can rotate them through faster. Also, you can even build a xenobiological lab on your capital to speed that up, and just other bonus buildings like that. Other than that, we're just doing fine in general, right? Just keep on going, keep on trudging through, and yeah, the delve cooldowns can be a little tedious though. Alright guys, a few years later, we're ready to delve again. If we miss on this one, it's going to be bad, but we don't. We can now form a covenant, so yeah, you do need to form a covenant with any patron. There we go. So yeah, this is going to be very, very nice. I guess it's my first time forming a covenant with a patron in, what's it called? Iron Man mode, right? Because previous I was playing with, Iron Man mode, but I made my own patron, right? Like, or I forged my own path and didn't form a covenant with a patron. So yeah, very, very cool. Yeah, now essentially in a few months we'll have the chance to confirm this covenant, and then is it on our next delve? We'll it's either on our next delve or just passively we'll get a chosen leader, and that chosen leader will be really, really powerful. As soon as we get it, we'll jump up to well over 1k tech. So I don't know exactly how long it takes, but it's usually like any minute now, and it should be popping up. Just got to be a little bit patient, I guess. Everything feels like forever after you've waited for it for so long. So in the meantime, what else do we need to do? We don't really need to work with diplomacy that much anymore. We can just kind of start to focus in on our economy. And what we want to do for that is, if you're lucky enough to have rolled Arc Furnace, of course, go ahead and start that. That will definitely reduce the amount of minerals we need to produce and alloys, which is nice because then we can focus more on our food world, as food will definitely become a major bottleneck for any kind of bioship build. And now this is where we're kind of in a rush because of our delayed ascension, thanks to my delve skill issue. I feel like an AI right now saying delve over and over and over again. Isn't delve that one word that AIs use at like an astronomically higher rate than any other word in the English language? Like, I think so, right? Like, they just love the word delve, and apparently I love the word delve down too. Delve, 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 delve. Like, anyways, I'm just going to finish Supremacy as well. It doesn't really matter too much the order. Just waiting for that Covenant confirmation. It's like usually a year or two, if I remember correctly. And yeah, in the meantime, just managing planets. Also, farming subsidies. Nice. That should definitely boost our food income, as our food income has been really lacking, I have to say. And then our mineral output will become unlacking as soon as this is done, which is nice. And there's just a few buildings we need to do. Let's sell some energy credits to make this happen. And we want to confirm the covenant, of course. And now we're going to get some massive bonuses. So the first one was, if you saw, faction resource output per telepath is now a thing, so we should get some extra tech from that. I guess it's not a huge amount because I didn't even notice the number change, if I'm being honest. I guess it did, just a tiny bit. And then the next thing we need to do is, of course, build this sanctum. And this part as well. Oh no. Okay, this is relatively unlucky, but we did not manage to get this onto the Shroud Preacher Governor, but we have this other high-level leader we can put it on, and honestly, that should be pretty good as well. I don't think this leader is a very good governor class. Is there anybody else we have who is a governor class that we could put this on? My reserved elder, I would have to get them off the leaders because they can't lead and govern at the same time, although they could become a governor, which is pretty good, and I can reform my government, so that's also good. So this is a bit of a tough choice here. I guess we'll just go with Minister of State, just because they're really high level. And what class are they actually? Ambassador. Well, we have an ambassador as a governor. It's not the biggest deal. It's way better when you get it on your Shroudwalker teacher. Unfortunately, we're not that lucky, so we put them here instead. And that's all fine and dandy. We'll still get some pretty massive bonuses. As you can see, we're immediately over 1k tech, and we don't even have a sanctum yet of the composer yet. So let's go ahead and try to build that, as well, we've been waiting on this for a long time. And after this is done, we should start to see some really ridiculous faction numbers. And we also don't have Thorough Bond activated yet, which we'll also be able to get at some point. And then this is the point in the build where essentially all we're doing now is we're just rushing to try to be lucky enough to find, what are we looking for? We're looking for the third civic, and the third civic is under statecraft, so you're going to want to go ahead and change your society research focus to statecraft. and just cross your. All right, everyone. So we are back after some time now, and we're basically about to finish Galactic Administration. And when this happens, this is when you want to fully militarize. I would say due to the misplays earlier on in this run and the generally poor luck of this playthrough, this is a little bit later than usual. But this is if you need to and you start militarizing now, it's not a bad idea. It's not terrible, as you still have 3 or 4 years to build maulers, and if you play defensively and anyone's trying to attack you, you will definitely have enough time to still build up a decent amount of forces by the time any invader actually gets to your territory for like a year 30 war type of situation. And if you're playing in single player, as long as the relations to the empires next to you aren't horrific by now, you will still have more than enough time to build up a military. And essentially all you want to do at this point is you want to take your current empire and you want to dip into catalytic reprocessing, which is one of the only ways I find that a bioempire with so few jobs can get a sufficient amount of alloys to militarize with anything other than amoeba ships, which I generally don't like for single player playthroughs. Now we're finally also going to take a Minister of the Seas. This will give us really good food output. And then in addition, you kind of have some tough choices to make here. A principal catalyst gives you more output for alloys. A Shroud Walker Teacher is important for delve cooldowns, so I think we kind of have to go for that. And then this is the next hard choice: Faction Out plus 4%, or Minister of Defense. I think we need a Minister of Defense, otherwise we're going to have trouble with our naval capacity. The reason why I think it's okay to skip the Faction Output for now is we already have large bonuses to Faction Output, including a plus 100%, and these don't stack multiplicatively. So for example, if I get a plus 20% more, it's not going to be like 20% more of 200, it'll be 120% more, which is a much smaller buff. Progressively more percentage buffs you have stacked, and remember we have another, I think, 5% buff per 100 telepaths. So yeah, when you're stacking that many additive buffs together, they start to lose value essentially, which is why you don't need to go faction resource coordinator or whatever it's called. And with that in mind, now we should have a decent source of alloys. What we want to do now is go back to your homeworld and just swap this area back to a heavy industry. And then in addition, you may have noticed you got a big spike in consumer goods as well. We can go ahead and convert that over to a militarized economy. I completely forgot to go from civilian to civilian economy earlier, which is a small issue, but not a huge deal. And we'll also go to supremacist when we have that available. We can now turn on fleet supremacy and fortify the border as well, since we have enough for that. Even mining subsidy, because I've just realized we have enough nav capacity for that as well, or not nav capacity, edict capacity. And yeah, at this point in the game, essentially I'm just gonna start this arc furnace upgrade and then go into militarization. Once again, as I mentioned before, we are a little bit late to this, so the year 30 numbers will be a little bit disappointing, but I'm sure we will scale hard enough to make this not too important. This is also the point where you're going to really want to start to scale your food output. Only 300 food is not going to cut it for a bioship empire, so we're going to start taking food techs. And also, if you haven't already done so, you can go to your government, go to your policies, and enable resettlement. This will be quite important, as you will want to manually move pops over. You will also get another important choice here, which is, do you want a divine sovereign? This is a really tough choice. So here's what I would recommend, and here's the results of picking either of these options. If you take a divine sovereign, you will swap over to the fanatic authoritarian, and that will do a couple bad things for you. It'll disable crowdsourcing. Well, the crowdsourcing will still work, I believe, or it might not even work. I can't remember. And then you'll have to manually get your ethics slowly back to a triple setup like this, where you have no fanatic ethic, so you can actually take crowdsourcing, which restricts you from having a fanatic ethic, and then reform back into like a democratic government. Or you can say no and not ever get the divine sovereign. So the better scaling option, and if you're playing in single player or to the ultra late game, would be to take the divine sovereign, suffer a short-term penalty, and then gain the long-term benefits. But since we are playing as if this is a year 30 build, we're going to take say no. A powerful god, hardly not. And if you've done this properly, this should be about 3 to 4 years earlier. But thanks to my delve skill issue earlier in the game, we don't have that. So alas, we're going to say no to the Divine Sovereign anyway. I wasn't planning on taking it. And at this point, oh, this is where we get the new Psionic Government as well. So this is going to be uh, a nice benefit, as this new transcendent democracy will give us even more faction output bonuses, and get us ever closer to that 2000 tech mark, which is quite good for any year 30 build, I would say. And yeah, at this point, we just need to kind of focus our economy into alloys. So we're going to unrestrict all possible alloy jobs, giving us over 100 alloy production. And with bioships, that is honestly plenty with the amount of food we have. The next thing we need to do is get as much food as we can. So we're going to basically resettle all the worker pops on our homeworld over onto this food world here. Just max out the amount of food output we can get. We're going to prioritize these food jobs as well. And as you can see, we're temporarily not doing too well on energy. However, this can be resolved quite quickly through just a couple upgrades on this planet, as this planet has really no energy upgrades right now. I think one thing we can do also is designate this to an energy planet. I don't think it's auto-designated correctly. And once we have the minerals for it, we can add a generator support as well, which will give us a decent efficiency boost. And do we have any civilians on this world? Not really. These are just making our tech, which is fine. And yeah, at this point, we can start to militarize. For fleet designs, Maulers are just completely OP. They outperform basically every ship. Battleships, Stingers, blah, 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 blah. Doesn't matter. Bioships or Maulers will win. And the reason they are so powerful is simply due to the overwhelming speed that these guys get access to. Let me see. Mark of the Cradle. I actually don't know what this component does. Shield hit points. That's pretty cool, I guess, but afterburners is what we want. And 233 speed is kind of an early game number, but as we get better motors, which is blocked by engineering tech, unfortunately, and that kind of thing, these guys are going to get faster and faster and faster. I think up to like 600 speed, which is simply unmatchable by other builds. And then when these things get up close and these combat mandibles engage, you can't really easily beat them. So yeah, I'm honestly not sure what the best combat computer is for these. I don't know if it's a swarm computer or something else. I have no idea. So please let me know if you know the best computer for Maulers. I don't typically play with these, as I think they're kind of a little bit too cringe for me. However, if you enjoy them, there's no shame in that. I think they're fantastic ships, and there's definitely a lot to be learned on both Mauler design and how to counter them. I am not a ship expert in any sense. All I do know is when you do build bioships, you want to build them with the juvenile setting, and you want to have this growth gland. If we take a look at my ship designer here, we'll see we have this juvenile accelerated growth gland, which means they'll eventually grow into the elder Maulers by themselves, which is definitely very nice. And yeah, we can just train the junior ones, and then they'll grow up into those powerful Elder Maulers, and they'll just rip through everything. Also, you should have Elder Mauler tech if you have the third Civic. It's generally relatively difficult to get the third Civic without having found Elder Maulers, to be honest, because their tech weight is quite high. So, especially with the 700 society tech we have before we reform our homeworld, it should not be a problem. In addition, on your homeworld, what you're going to want to do at this point is you're going to want to start to replace some of the other districts with city districts. This will give us increased alloy output. In addition, we're going to want to build things like the alloy reclamation plant and the chemical plants and that kind of thing, as we're going to want to tier up those buildings as soon as we can. Right now, we have very low tier catalytic technicians, which is fine, as this build does consume more food. As you can see, we're down to just 56 food per month, which means we're going to need to upgrade our farming world. One thing to note is when you're making a farming world, if you have extra pops, of course, go ahead and build the actual agriculture districts, but once you're out of pops, you can just continuously build city districts to increase the efficiency of the pops you do have, and that will also give you pretty massive bonuses, so don't forget to do that. We also get bioplasma, which would be a little bit better as add-ons for our ships there, and I also don't think this is aggregated as a food world. The composer of strands is here as now, and we're just going to move towards it as well. It would be very a wise idea to eventually go and collect every single building, and I've seen people get this by like year 41, so that's definitely a lot better than I think what I could manage. Yeah, it's going to take me a lot longer. I think the last time I tried it, it took me until like year 80 to get all 4 buildings. So yeah, if you're good at that, please let me know techniques you have to kind of move your position in the Shroud along and kind of explore all the areas faster, as this takes me forever. Especially the Composer is usually pretty hard for a lot of the builds I like to play, who usually end up in this quadrant, if anything. But yeah, you can slowly move along and collect all of those, as you'll get some really nice bonuses to your home world, and you can even build that building on, say, your farming world, as I believe this will be one of the larger bottlenecks to the efficiency of our build as we go on, is the amount of food we can get off our food world. And also at this point, yeah, just continuously pump those ships out. Another thing you'll want to do is go ahead and go into your government, and once you finish supremacy, you can go ahead and take 2 things. One is galactic force projection. This will give you a massively improved naval capacity. As you can see, we're up to over 200. And then you can also go ahead and change, first of all, what kind of war doctrine you want. Probably hit and run. Just good disengagement chance. Rapid deployment is good in some cases where you need the speed. Where, these are fast enough usually, so you don't need it. And then another thing you're going to want to do is go to your government and turn your not your war philosophy, but your diplo stance into supremacist, because you no longer need to appease the Cradle of Souls for any reason. You can just move down and start exploring the other areas of the Shroud, which is perfectly fine. And yeah, at this point, we're kind of off and going. It's basically only a matter of time before we start to outscale the AIs next to us. Right now, they should still be quite a bit stronger, or even unknown, right? They have inferior tech equivalent economy and overwhelming fleet power, but with equivalent economy and much better tech, our ability to militarize will be much better than any AIs. And just in addition to that, our economy is going to be scaling pretty hard. As you can see, we're already up to 500 food. We will probably want to get this up to like 1,000 at the very least at some point. So yeah, just dropping city districts to boost the efficiency will be nice. We can continue to delve. Psionic jump organ. Is that really jump drives already? That's incredible. Yeah, Psionic jump organ. 20 months until jump drives, right? Like, so yeah, jump drives at year 32. I love it. Yeah, our homeworld, 177 alloys. That is, as you can imagine, kind of more than you really need. I guess we're overproducing alloys a bit. If you end up overproducing alloys and underproducing food, no worries. Just go ahead and move the pops over right to the food world. So yeah, we're going to move all the workers on this planet over here, and some of the specialists. Yeah, just get this food world working at a better amount rate. One thing you can also do is we don't need this many pearl divers, especially not on this planet. So just go ahead and disable the pearl diver jobs. You will get more as you build more districts, but just enable them as needed. Just maintain your consumer goods. You don't have to produce excess or anything like that. In addition, you're kind of now free to take whatever you feel like. Let's just go prosperity, because why not? It gives a good agenda, more than anything else, to be honest. We will also need, at this point, a way to scale our pops. Psionic, simply speaking, cannot get enough pops to compete with other builds in a normal manner. So if you have a neighbor that you never managed to get friendly with, you know what I'm saying? Like, looks pretty nice to me. I believe this is a size 30 ocean world as well, because I think they have the size 30 ocean homeworld start, thanks to them only having one planet here and no guarantees. I'm pretty sure this is the size 30 ocean start. And you know what that means? That's a bit of a free lunch, right? So as soon as you get to like 20, 30K fleet, which we should be there in a few years, although our food situation will definitely make this a bit sketchy. Um, yeah, like it's going to be great. So yeah, we're just going to kind of alternate between agriculture districts and city districts. City districts, I think every time we build them, we'll increase the output by 40%. Keep in mind it's a 40% additive. So once we get to like say 400%, adding another 40% is really only another 10%, right? You generally want to build them about 1 to 1. Um, and yeah, anyhow, we'll be back at like year 35 to see what our fleet looks like. All right, here we are at year 35, guys. Our fleet is a little disappointing at 17K. Do keep in mind that we were delayed about 3 to 4 years from our mistake earlier, so this is not too bad. In all honesty, I'm pretty sure just given like a few couple years from now, we'll be close to 30K, which is what I had in testing. And with optimizations that we find in the future, or you can even find yourself by trying this build out, I'm sure we could get this to um, this kind of level at year 30, probably on the dot, as there's still a lot to be learned about, at least for me, how to quickly try to get things with the composer and that kind of thing, and maybe having a second covenant or building or just anything kind of like that. And at this point in time is also when, if you want to, you can um, start playing aggressively and start taking over AIs and such, as you should have no problem with that kind of thing now. Let's declare war on this empire here and try to start taking their stuff, right? As we need some expansion. Psionics has a no growth, and this is honestly the best way to grow as Psionics, is to just do small conquests of your nearby AIs and such. And I think we did have to declare war on these guys, as they were a big part of a lot of our bonds, which is fine. I think we should be able to quickly fly our ships over into these guys, the Kazan Church of Other Worlds, and just quickly take them out and then deal with anything else we might need to do back at home. I don't think that should be a problem. Um, yeah, as you can see, our ships are just way too powerful for them. 8,000 AI ships can be considered like, I don't know, less than 6,000 of a PvP player's ships for sure. They're usually very terrible and don't manage to do much. So yeah, we can just kind of relaxedly fly in. Also, we're going to take anti-gravity engineering here, as we definitely want to be able to go for um, an ecumenopolis as soon as possible. If we get it before like year 45, that'd be pretty good. So we need to both. I just realized we're out of energy. That's a bit of a mistake there, as we're going to definitely lose some fleet power. We might have to fly our fleet backwards to take care of this too. I always do this. I always fly my fleet in front of enemies somehow and then lose my armies. So let's not lose our armies here. Did I already lose the bulk of my armies, or is the bulk of my army somewhere else? Okay, the bulk of my armies is here. Okay, good, 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 good. They're psionic armies too, so they should be pretty strong. And one nice thing about playing with um, Maulers is they're quite fast, so you'll rarely have issues with speed. You'll rarely have issues keeping up with other guys, or getting kited around or that kind of thing. You probably have the fastest ships out there, and should be able to build them quite quickly as well. Um, Another thing to note is we are starting to have energy problems here. That's fine. We can start to upgrade our energy world, and also I'm building a Dyson swarm in the background, which will also help with our energy concerns. As you can imagine, this build is decently energy hungry with the pure amount of ships we start to maintain, but that could be pretty easily solved with things like the Dyson Swarm. And let's take a look at the armies we're dealing with here. 1,062. So yeah, it definitely looks like the AIs do a better job at having actual armies now, which definitely means we might need to wait a second before our own armies get strong enough to take them on. We have another 141 here. I don't really want to bombard them because I want to keep their pops, so my greediness is telling me right now, just wait a little bit and then invade. Once we have enough psionic armies, let's just keep training them here. And yeah, as you can see, the only thing we really need to do is just be careful about our energy credits. If we're having problems, we can sell our plentiful amounts of other resources at this point to help maintain that. And yeah, we can just continue to train up as many juvenile maulers as we need as well. And yeah, I guess we probably need to fly over this way to actually end the war as well, because otherwise we won't have enough occupation. So yeah, let's fly our ships this way and start to take care of that as well. And I forgot our armies literally have psionic jump drives, which are the best jump drives in the game, so we can just jump them over, which is so ridiculous. Year 37 jump drives definitely doesn't feel quite right. um, and yeah, it'll take a while before we can upgrade these ships to have jump drives because our star bases are just so maxed out. Uh, and I'm too lazy to micro them correctly, so yeah, that's definitely going to be a bit. Anyhow, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know if you guys have found any other cool synergies or builds. I have one other build, which is an environmentalist rangers in the pipeline. I doubt it's going to be very good, but hey, you never know until you try. And if that doesn't work out, I'm kind of out of ideas for now. I'm sure there's still so much to look into. I'm sure lubrication tanks can somehow be combined with other ideas to make for something very strong as well. With machines, I'm sure hives have ideas with psionics as well. I'm not sure if they're as good as biomorphosis with hives, um, right? But yeah, I mean, it's really yet to be seen how powerful that can be. So, anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.